I have borderline personality disorder. Does this mean I want to be treated differently than other people? No. The short answer is no. Being treated differently is not very nice. I want to be treated like everybody else. I want to feel normal. Everybody wants to feel normal. And if you notice that a person around you treats you differently, that's painful. I've noticed it because I told someone that I just met once, just recently, that I had borderline, and she just, acted very strangely around me because of that. So the short answer is no. But if you know someone a bit, things might change, and you might have to, read up on borderline. I mean, that's the first step. Just read up on the condition and learn, and it's not more complicated than that. Then there's, of course, the individual aspect of it all. We are not all the same, so what I say and what I think is not perhaps suitable for everybody else. Just like it is with every person in your life. You can't assume that everybody is the same. There's this thing called, the golden rule, and then there's this thing called the silver rule. The golden rule is the one that old people refer to. Treat everybody else as you want to be treated yourself. And that's a good start. That's a good beginning to begin with. But if we move on, if you level up a bit, you should, of course, treat people as they want to be treated. Which takes, of course, the variable that you need knowledge about this person. You need to know what they want. So, what do I want except being treated like everybody else? Well, in a relationship, which is basically the only time when this comes into relevance, I want tolerance, of course, for my quirks, my needs, my need for, I'm an introvert as well, so I need a lot of rest and recover from social things. Otherwise, I get stressed, and when I get stressed, my barriers to control things, emotional things, they tend to weaken. I become a lot more unstable. I've noticed that very, very clearly in the last couple of months. That when I stress out, I struggle a lot more with keeping myself together. So that's important, of course. Otherwise, I would also like for people just to, be respectful of my need for clearance and integrity, and just being very honest about things. Because if you're vague in my presence, I will notice it. I notice very well when a person is bit different than they usually are. I can tell it very clearly. You can't mask that at all. I'm very hypersensitive to changes in how a person acts towards me. And also my lifelong struggles has made me very, very wary about how people are. So I generally assume that when people are acting strangely or uncomfortable in my presence, it's because they don't like me. So that is what I'm going to assume you are doing. Being in a relationship with me, you need to be very straightforward and upfront with things. If something is bothering you, let me know. Not because I will miss the thing otherwise, it's just that I will clearly see it and interpret it badly. I will always assume that things are really bad. In a more clear example, if you tell me that, well, everything is okay, nothing is wrong, and then act like something is wrong, I will assume that you are lying. And why do people lie in a relationship? Because they want to hide something usually. So I will get paranoid, I will get suspicious, and probably assume that you are hiding something for a very horrible reason, like being trying to hide something, another person in your life, maybe a mistake, maybe stuff like that, classical things. I will jump to that conclusion quite fast because of my borderline and of course my personal experiences from this. So that's one thing that's very important. I know it's important for everyone, but it's especially important for people, I think, with borderline. Be clear what you mean by things. Don't go around being vague. And answer if I ask you, as your partner, what's wrong? Just answer the question. Don't be vague. Unless you have something to hide, of course. Then you're. I can rest assure you are screwed, because that thing ain't gonna go away, no matter how good you are at lying. I doubt very much that you are able to mask it, unless you are a psychopath. You can mask your own emotions incredibly well, because I will pick up on your emotions. What I won't pick up is what they mean. I am like a very observant person on those things, but I have no idea what they mean. I'm completely dumb about that, usually, and assume things. That's important, and as many knows, people with borderline usually have a strong need of free time where they can do their soothing things, rest and recover, yes, but also like hobbies and stuff like that. So if you have troubles with me needing to just vent my steam through creative projects, through whatever I need as a hobby, if it's playing computer, if it's doing sport or whatever, well, then you are going to not work in a relationship with a borderline person. That's just how it works. And if you are a hypersensitive person as well, or someone like that, projecting things on me, well, I'm sorry, you won't work at all. I mean, I should have started with that. If you are a very sensitive person that misunderstands things all the time, well, then you are going to struggle a lot with borderline. Don't end up in a relationship with someone with borderline, because if you are sensitive to emotional outbursts and so on, and take these always the wrong way, like clash with it or get hurt a lot, you will just create situations where you will make both of us unhappy. I can remember this from my long relationship, which ended over 10 years ago, that she was very sensitive, and when we clashed, which we did from time to time, and most of the time we had a good relationship, but when we clashed, she became very, very sad and cried, and I felt like this was emotional blackmail, that we couldn't discuss things and we couldn't argue things through without her becoming sad and crying. And that frustrated me and made me feel like I had to always keep everything I felt, all emotions I felt, locked up. I couldn't vent at all. And frustration is not in any way a good thing. So, hypersensitive persons who are unable to understand how a borderline person works, and unable to realize that we are a bit, unstable emotionally without it actually meaning a lot, sometimes at least, you should never actually end up in a relationship. if you're not willing to take your part of it, and so on. Yeah, I think other than that, treat us like you treat anybody else. Everybody wants to feel normal. That is the fundamental thing of being a social creature, which we are. Individualistic or introverted or extroverted or whatever we are, we all want to feel accepted into the group. Otherwise, things will become painful. So just treat us as you always do. If you have a friend that just recently perhaps got diagnosed, or a partner, just read up on it. Just read up on the condition. It looks terrible on the paper, but unless you felt it was terrible before, nothing is going to change, and they don't want you to treat them anywhere like you haven't treated them before. I mean, good God, if people were sensitive around me and started to not make hilarious jokes about everything, I would feel really, really sad. That would hurt me. I want people around me to treat me like they always did. And that's also one of the reasons very few people around me, of my actual friends, know about this. I'm starting to forget who I've told and not told, actually. I told my exes just to give them the honest answer and explaining to them what happened in our relationships. And they appreciated it a lot, of course. But I don't think I've told many friends. Because of this reason. I don't want them to treat me in a way other than they already had. It was never with my friends that anything clashed or was difficult. It is in a relationship that things are difficult. This is a condition that is most obvious in relationships. It doesn't really show itself much otherwise. It can do when stress is a factor or there are other conflicts, but usually it doesn't. So there you have it. And if you follow this channel and listen to my clips, you can get a fairly decent perspective, at least my perspective as a middle-aged man living in a Western country. I bet things are a lot different if you live in a completely different setting, of course. Anyways, let me know what your experiences are, and if you struggle with how people treat you and you still are unsure how to treat someone, write me. You can write me here openly on the channel, or you can just look me up on the other social media here and just write me a personal note, and we can discuss it there, of course, if you would rather want to just keep things more out of the open. This is a sensitive topic, I know. Not everybody wants to discuss these things. Anyways, this is the Borderline Man signing off.